Hello everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show, and we are of course the UK's only TV programme that really loves to look after your mental health and well-being. So today we turn our attention to mental health in young people, as I hear from our resident psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, who'll be giving her opinion on why so many youngsters are suffering from mental health issues in the first place, as well as ways in which they can improve their general mental health. Nutritionist Lily Soutter will be on hand to give her nutrition tips for young people, as well as giving us a delicious recipe for an avocado and mango smoothie bowl. Our very own Julianne Robertson talks to the lovely people of Share Community and see what they do to better the lives of those with mental and physical difficulties. Then at the end of the show, I'll be sharing some top tips from young people to help you recover from mental illness. And I also speak to my special guest Natasha Gordon-Polomski on how she coped with being diagnosed with depression at just 13, as well as her struggles with body dysmorphia and suicidal thoughts. Now, if you thought mental health issues were just for us adults, you're unfortunately mistaken. According to Children's Society, 10% of all children and young people aged between 5 and 16 have a clinically diagnosable mental health problem. However, 70% of those will not have had sufficient intervention at the right age. Half of mental health problems are established by age 14 and 3/4 by the age of 24. Overall, 20% of adolescents may experience a mental health problem in any given year. Well, with such an important issue to discuss, we wanted to hear some of your thoughts. Gabby says, I wish there were more conferences out there for young people interested in mental health advocacy. Forward-thinking BAM say anxiety is one of the most common mental health issues experienced by children and young people. Nikki says, so many depression cases nowadays, children, teenagers and even adults. I'd really like to work and be a mental health advocate. Kids Create say it is vital to support kids and young people in their mental health. They will find it natural to talk about it and become emotionally intelligent too. Alex says, I wish there was more offered to young people who get sudden fame. I can track exactly when my mental health went into sharp decline. And Laura says, when I'm a parent, I will understand that teenagers can have physical and mental health problems, and they're just as important as an adult. So thanks very much for your views there. We're here to share her own professional opinion is our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thank you for having me.
So another very important topic we have here, young people and mental health.
Absolutely, and sadly, mental health issues are just getting more and more common.
Why is that for young people?
For me, I know people hear me say this all the time, social media is a real issue. It's great in so many ways for keeping in touch, but it can cause severe mental health issues. Yeah. There was recently a piece of research, and it was publicised on the BBC. They were talking about how young people were even asking others to either take their phones away from them, they had to wait for their batteries to run out, they had to find places on campus where there was no Wi-Fi, just so they could find a quiet place to study. They weren't able to switch themselves off from their phones unless somebody physically did it for them.
Well, that's an addiction.
So it's an addiction.
Yeah.
It's an addiction. And that's a real problem, and it makes me question, why is that the case as well? And sometimes they were saying, well, they're afraid of missing out on something, or they feel guilty if they don't answer someone straight away, which again is quite a lot of pressure to put on somebody who's also studying for their exams or choosing their careers, or maybe, you know, going through relationship issues or whatever else they're going through, to then have that pressure of always being on call 24/7. That's quite difficult. It sort of brings me to the next point on, there's also less privacy now for young people. With everything being on social media, that's another whole place where your life is lived before everybody else. But also, whilst you get a lot more step families now, which is lovely and very enriching in many cases. But you've also got to consider what it might be like for a family who, a boy or a girl may have been used to being the man or the woman of the family before their parents remarried. And not only are they sharing their parent, but they often have to share their belongings, maybe their personal space. And that can be quite a period of adjustment as well. So those are little things which have so many benefits in many ways, but also things that we just need to be aware of that can cause young people extra problems.
What are the
actual on top of puberty and
everything else?
you know, all the other
young
things
people have to deal with, definitely. What are maybe the most common mental health issues now that affect young people?
Depression, anxiety, body dysmorphia is getting more and more common, especially in men. This is because you get all of these Instagram pictures with bodybuilders and so on, and boys are thinking they don't live up to that. So it's not just women who have to live up to perhaps an ideal that has been photoshopped, but men are also feeling the same pressures as well. So it's always been around, but it seems to be a little bit more prevalent. You also get the fewer roots, in that a lot of families move around an awful lot. It's hard to maintain friendships because you don't know where you're going in the next 2 years. You might have to change schools a couple of times. That's not only disruptive because you've got exams on or because you've got other commitments that you might have, but then to have to make a whole new friendship group at a time when other people already have friends, that's also quite difficult. So there's so many things in the lifespan, as well as struggling with finding your own identity, learning who you are. Finance is another issue. This is sort of your older young people now. So many of them want to be independent, live their own lives, but they can't afford to move out of the home. So again, where's the privacy? Where's the opportunity to start their lives together?
It's very hard. Audrey, what advice then, because we've mentioned so many issues that young people go through, and obviously every young person, no matter the generation, we've all been through certain difficulties that we had in our younger years, and it will always continue. Each generation has their own difficulties. But in now, sort of the way things are now, what kind of advice could you give to young people to look after their mental health?
The best thing young people can do to look after their mental health is actually talk to someone if they think something is wrong. But it's also important to know that that person they talk to, especially if it's a friend or a family member, they're not the answer to their problems. That person can be there to help them through really what is the minefield of getting professional support, because sadly the services are very overworked at the moment, and you get situations where a young person may not be able to be treated in their own county, they have to go somewhere else. And so the support that the friend or family can give is being with them through that process. It's also important to remember that actually some feelings such as depression, anxiety could be due to a different underlying cause. So don't jump straight into antidepressants or something like that straight away. Just as an example of this, hypothyroidism can cause depression and fatigue. Hyperthyroidism, can cause anxiety and sort of insomnia. But if it's just attributed to depression or anxiety or something like that, and you're just prescribed tablets for that, and it's actually your thyroid that needs looking at, then actually you're not treating the correct root cause. So that can be an issue too. So just be aware that if you are seeking treatment and it's medicinal or somatic, it's for the right thing. And probably another thing that anyone can do at any time is actually spend a little bit more time with their families. Just close the laptop, get offline, get outside, enjoy smelling the fresh air, enjoying the sunshine. It is summer at the moment, we think, so get outside and spend time together.
Lovely. Audrey, thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, well, as Audrey mentioned, with summer well and truly here, we thought we would bring you an alternative recipe to the usual ice cream. Here, nutritionist Daniel Shine gives us a recipe for healthy, guilt-free nice cream.
Hi, everybody. Since becoming a natural food chef and adopting a healthier lifestyle, a lot of people ask me if I miss the foods like pizza, chocolate, and ice cream. But my answer is no. I don't miss these things at all because I still eat them, just healthier, cleaner versions. Like the ice cream recipe I'm going to show you how to make right now. Although this version I like to call nice cream because it's nice to your insides and outsides. Packed with real fruit and some healthy fats from coconut, this nice cream is so delicious. But don't take my word for it. Come and join me in the kitchen, watch how I make it, and then make it for yourself. Let's get started. When you feel like a sweet treat, nothing beats a bowl of healthy ice cream made from vitamin-rich frozen fruit, including bananas, rich in vitamin C, potassium, dietary fibre, and vitamin B6 that assist your body to be well. Raspberries, high in vitamins that support your immunity to fight colds, flus, and infections. Coconut oil for a dose of healthy fats that keep you feeling fuller for longer. And a little dried shredded coconut for added texture and flavour. Place all ingredients into a food processor and blend together until smooth. Pour into a container and place in the freezer for up to 30 minutes to refreeze to an ice cream-like texture. Delicious on its own or with some fresh fruit, crushed nuts or seeds. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much to Danielle. Well, after the break, I'll be hearing how Natasha Gordon-Polomski coped with her anxiety and depression from the age of 13. But first, what percentage of the NHS budget is spent on children's mental health? Is it A, 0.7%, B, 5.7%, or C, 10.7%? Find out right after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your TV program for all things related to mental health and well-being. Now, before the break, I asked you what percentage of the NHS budget is spent on children's mental health. Is it A, 0.7%, B, 5.7%, or C, 10.7%? The answer is A, 0.7%, according to charity Young Minds. That's just over 6% of the total NHS mental health spend. We're here to share her experiences of mental health issues at a young age is tonight's special guest, Natasha Gordon-Polomski. Welcome to the show, Natasha.
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you for being so brave to come on TV to talk about these issues that you've had and have been going through. And why is it so important for you to actually do this today?
I think growing up there's a lot of stigma around mental health issues and a reluctance to talk about it. People are definitely stigmatized for being open about it. They're labelled as attention seekers. I definitely was. So I think it's just important to be open about your experiences and not normalise it, but just make it something that's acceptable to share, because keeping it to yourself is never good.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to go into your story now.
Yeah.
So when did the actual mental health issues begin for you? How young were you at the time, and what happened? What triggered everything?
Yeah, I remember being as young as 7 when I first had suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
I remember sitting on my mum's bedroom windowsill thinking about jumping. Probably wouldn't have done much damage, but for a small girl it was a big thing, and my mum came in and found me. She didn't really understand what was going on, so she was really angry at me. She thought I was being silly.
Do you remember why you wanted to do that, or was it just the thought that came?
Yeah, I had quite a difficult childhood. It was really confusing. I was having to testify in court at that point. When I was about 7 or 8, I was having to make videos with police giving my experiences of what had happened. We left when I was about 6. We left my dad's home and we stayed in a women's refuge. So I was going through a really difficult time personally. I felt like I wasn't being very well understood by people. I felt like I was being judged by people, and it all was just a bit overwhelming. I think I had difficulty fitting in when I was in primary school, but the actual mental health problems started when I was about 13. I started having panic attacks and experiencing depression. I started drinking actually when I was 13. I remember there was a night I ended up in hospital the first time I drank with friends. So I was referred to the team then, CAM's mental health team, which is obviously a really long process. There's a long waiting list, and during that time I was drinking again at a friend's party, and I tried throwing myself out of the window. I was pulled back by my friends, so CAMS found out about that and sort of bumped me up the waiting list, where I was seen by a care coordinator. They said they diagnosed me with depression properly, and I was put on medication quite quickly.
So you're very young then when you were already on medication then?
Yeah, they're usually quite reluctant to put people on medication, but I was really suffering. I was in a really dark place.
Apart from the help that you were getting, had you sort of opened up to friends about it, or were you kind of like, I don't want to tell anyone because
No, not really. Not until I was diagnosed. I think that's when I started telling my friends what was going on.
Okay.
I actually ended up moving away from my friendship group. It was a really tough thing to deal with around people that didn't have a clue about mental health issues, really.
When you did tell them, what was their reaction like?
I think I only really had one particular friend that I opened up to about that sort of thing, who was really supportive at the time. And then I'm trying to think where I got to.
Okay. No worries. So in terms of, because obviously you tried to kill yourself the second time, or what we've spoken about so far, but what was would you say that was your lowest moment, or did you have other low moments like that? No,
it's really hard to pinpoint what my lowest moment was, because there were so many times where I felt like I couldn't be here anymore. I overdosed at one point. I'm not sure how old I was. While I was under CAMS, I started having problems with my body image. They said it was body dysmorphia. I was never diagnosed properly with an eating disorder. They just said it was EDNOS, which is eating disorder, not otherwise specified. But I had a really tough time. I was over-exercising and not eating. Like, there would be days where I'd spend time up in my room doing sort of circuits, but I wouldn't have eaten that day.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was really struggling.
What was it you weren't happy with, like when you looked at yourself in the mirror? What was it that was?
It's really weird, because I was really thin growing up. Like, boys would call me anorexic, flat-chested, that sort of thing. But then when I started gaining weight, I had comments about the fact that I was gaining weight, and I personally saw myself as really fat. Okay. Obviously, when someone has body dysmorphia, your flaws are kind of enhanced. So what I saw in the mirror probably wasn't what I actually looked like. Okay. But in my head, yeah, I remember thinking, I'd rather die than get fat. I'd rather die than gain any more weight. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
How did you actually, because obviously apart from attempting suicide, were there other things that you tried to do yourself to kind of deal with the emotions, whether good or bad? Yeah,
I think drinking was definitely one of them. It was always social drinking. I didn't do it on my own, but when I drank, I drank. Okay. But yeah, so I was dealing with anxiety a lot, and then self-harming.
When did that start, the self-harm?
Probably when I was about 14. Okay. There were, I think, a few times that I've done it has been as an attempt to end my life. But there were times where I felt like I deserved punishment. I felt like...
Why?
Because I wasn't good enough, or I was failing at something. Sometimes my emotions were just too extreme for me to deal with, and it was just like a form of release. Sometimes it was that I felt numb and I wanted to feel something. So I couldn't give you like a sort of blanket statement as to why I did it. But I remember the first time I did it was triggered by a comment made by one of my teachers. I had been talking in class, and she pulled me up in front of everyone and said, you know, you out of everyone here needs to be concentrating. Said that I was more likely to fail at that particular subject than anyone, which was difficult for me because I've always had a really sort of intense fear of failure. I've always been worried that I'm never going to sort of make something of myself. So to anyone else, they might have brushed that off. You know, you got told off in front of the class or whatever. But for me, that really stuck with me. And I remember actually thinking before I even got home, I knew that's what I was going to do. I don't know why.
Just a question on that, Natasha, because with something like self-harming, you were very young. Had you heard about it, or heard about other people doing it, or seen something maybe on social media that prompted you to do that, or was it just something that you'd never heard of, you'd never seen, but you just thought, no, I need to do this?
No, yeah, I don't think I had actually heard of it. I think I'd had urges to hurt myself before.
Okay.
I don't know where I got the idea from, but then when she made that comment, I think that triggered it, where I thought, yeah, actually, I do need to hurt myself because clearly I'm not good enough.
And when you did it the first time, how did you feel?
It was a really intense experience. I remember, I think that was one of the worst times I did it, because I literally just cut up my whole arm. Both of my arms were completely slashed up. I don't know how, I think I did feel relieved, but I was also just really emotional. I remember crying a lot that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you tell anyone about what you'd done at the time?
Yeah, I think I told my mum straight away that time. There were times where I didn't say anything. I remember one particular time where I was really struggling to look at myself in the mirror. I actually smashed my bedroom mirror up, and I used those pieces to hurt myself. Mm-hmm. And I remember my mum and brother calling up, "You all right?" Yeah, you know. So there were times where I did keep it to myself. There was a time where I ended up in hospital. So my arms were bandaged up, but then the next day I went in and I did my mock exams, just the same as anyone else. So
the next day?
Yeah. So
wow.
That's why I found it really difficult when people did find out and started calling me an attention seeker, because really I didn't show them half the pain that I was dealing with.
See, this is why I love it when people like you, Natasha, come on the program and explain these things, because we naturally as human beings, and you know, wrongly, we do make assumptions about people, and we do jump to conclusion. It's very easy for us to say, oh, that person's just messing around, or they're attention seeking, and even the comments that we say sometimes, that we make, like teachers, oh, you're not, you know, you out of everyone. You know, like you said, it could be anyone else. Maybe could take it something. Oh, it's just nothing. It's just a teacher telling you off. But you don't know who's in your class. You don't know who's around you, what they're going through, the kind of things that they've been through in the past. That something that you say can just trigger something so negative. I know it's difficult to sort of monitor everything that we say, but it's just, I think for all of us, just to be more aware of the kind of comments that we make sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a complete lack of understanding. I think that teachers in schools should have more sort of training, more education on these issues. I remember I was having to go and see my head of year once a week at lunchtime just to have a chat.
Okay.
And I remember once he turned to me and he just said, "Why are you even depressed? You know, you're smart, you're pretty, you have no reason to be depressed." And that just shows a complete ignorance, really, doesn't it, of mental health issues. Yeah.
It's hard. I know it's difficult. Where are you now, Natasha? What kind of help? Because you mentioned some of the help you're receiving. So what's the situation at the moment?
At the minute, I've just recently been put on a new medication. So earlier on this year, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder as well. Okay. So that's something I'm just sort of coming to terms with. But I've self-referred to complex needs service. So again, it's a long waiting list. But at the minute, it's just making sure I'm taking my medication every day. And just generally being a bit more self-aware, being aware when these intense emotions arise, how I can calm myself down, how I can deal with it. Okay. I've got a lot better at reaching out to friends and family when I need support.
Okay. What would you say to maybe family members that do live with someone or have a child that is going through mental health issues? What's the best thing that friends and family could do you think?
I think be patient, don't make assumptions. Don't make snap judgments or anything like that. Don't assume that you know what they're going through, because even within a home, even behind just your bedroom door, you can hide a lot. But yeah, so just be aware of what they're going through. Research as much as you can as well, but just be there for them.
Would you advise? Well, sometimes I know parents and sometimes friends, when someone that maybe is depressed or going through something says, "I want to be left alone." Would you advise, well, leave them alone, or do you think the person should kind of be a bit more persistent and still try and talk? Because sometimes the person might think they want to be alone. and maybe they just can't deal with speaking to someone at the time, but actually that person does need someone around. What would you say?
I think there's definitely been times where I've thought, oh, I can't be around people right now, but actually I really did need, just even if it's just a quiet presence, someone just there with me. Being on your own can be really difficult. Yeah.
So even if you don't necessarily have to be talking to the person about like, oh, how are you feeling, what you're going through, but just having them there is something useful. Yeah,
just let them know that you're there, that you're around if they need to, and also just letting them know that there's no expectations of what, if you do come downstairs to sit with me, we don't have to chat, you can just sit.
Okay. Sometimes that's all the person wants at the time, isn't it, right? Okay, and what about, how do you see your future? Do you see a future for yourself now? Or is it still difficult for you?
It can be difficult. I think, especially with BPD, I go through different emotions throughout the day, so I could start off the day feeling really positive about myself. By the end of the day, I'm thinking, no, this isn't for me. It varies a lot.
How do you feel about doing this interview now?
I think I feel good about it. Yeah? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you've been amazing to do this interview, honestly. And, however you're going to feel later and everything, just remember what you've done today is actually going to help people to open up and get the help that they need. Because I know there's a lot of people that haven't actually, first of all, some don't even realise what they're going through. Or they just feel afraid to open up to someone. But I'm sure after this interview, people are going to be more likely to open up if they're in that situation.
Yeah, I hope so. I definitely encourage that, 100%.
Thank you so much, sweetheart, for sharing your story. Thank you. Well, guys, don't go away, because after the break, we'll have nutritionist Lily Soutter giving me her top nutrition tips for young people, as well as answering all of your questions and giving us a delicious recipe for avocado and mango smoothie bowl. But first, can you fill in this sentence for me? Young people in prison are how many times more likely to take their own lives than those who aren't? Is the answer A, 3, B, 9, or C, 18? Tune in after the break to find out. Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today has been all about mental health in young people. So before the break, I asked you to fill in this sentence for me. Young people in prison are how many times more likely to take their own lives than those who aren't? Is it A, 3, B, 9, or C, 18? The answer is C, 18, according to Public Health England. Well, here to help those who are struggling by feeding them with the right nutrition is our very own nutritionist, Lily Soutter. Welcome to the show, Lily.
Hi.
So obviously there's a lot that can be done regarding nutrition, because as we've heard from you and our other experts that come on the program, what we eat does affect our mood and how we feel about ourselves. But is there anything in particular for young people that you think would be good for them to have maybe on a daily or weekly basis?
Yeah. So good nutrition for teenagers is absolutely critical. This is purely because they're going through a time where they're rapidly growing and developing. So they actually require a higher intake of all nutrients, basically. Yeah. There are sort of two ones which we probably should be focusing on, because there is a sort of propensity to become deficient in them. Okay. The first one is calcium. It's really important because obviously teenagers, they are having sort of a rapid growth in bone mass, and calcium can support bone health, really. So between the ages of 11 and 18, their daily reference intakes of calcium actually increase for both males and females. So making sure that teenagers are consuming sort of dairy products daily, whether that's milk, cheese or yogurt, great sources of calcium. If they don't consume sort of dairy products, just making sure that their alternative milks like almond milk is fortified with calcium. You can find some calcium from sort of dark green leafy vegetables like kale and rocket, but just not to great extents as you would find in dairy. And then another mineral, which is actually it's quite a common deficiency in the UK, but it's iron, which we really need to focus on. So iron is really important for energy, but it's also important for sort of growth and development. And both male and female sort of teenagers both need an increase in iron intake, but especially girls, just because they're starting menstruations, they need to make sure that they're replacing their iron stores. So
very important.
Iron is found in meat, like you find heme iron in meat, which is highly absorbable. Sort of plant-based sources of iron are non-heme iron, so they're less absorbable. So if the teenager's not really consuming a protein, well, not protein-rich and adequate protein diet, and they're focusing on very sort of refined carbs and sort of more unhealthy foods, they may not be getting adequate iron within their diet. So you do find iron in meat, as I was saying, but at the same time, if sort of the teenager's vegetarian, they could go for sort of more plant-based sources of iron, which would be whole grains, nuts, beans, pulses, and all sort of dark green leafy vegetables like spinach as a source of iron. And then another good trick, just to make sure that they are absorbing all their iron from food as much as possible, is combining vitamin C with each meal. Massively help the absorption of iron from the food. So whether that's getting the vitamin C from vegetables like broccoli and bell peppers, they're very rich sources of vitamin C, is really, really good, having that combination with the iron-rich foods. If not, and they're really struggling, they could have a vitamin C supplement with each meal of a low dose. And again, if not, some doctors recommend having a glass of orange juice. However, I'm not a big advocate just because it's quite sugary. But it's just another aspect to think about. So
brilliant. So we have some lovely ingredients here. What are you going to be making for us today, Lily?
So today I'm going to be making a very easy sort of avocado and mango smoothie with a bit of sort of iron-rich spinach in there and some lime as well.
Lovely. So let's take it away.
So first of all, it's the mango, which I'm going to put in. So this mango is a rich source of vitamin A, which is very good for immunity. So it's half a mango. Then we've got the 2 handfuls of spinach, and as I was saying, this is a source of iron. So it's basically getting the greens in.
I'm interested how this is going to taste, because I have had avocado smoothies and mango smoothies, but I've never had two together.
Oh really? No, they blend really well together. The avocado gives it a very sort of creamy texture. I don't know why, they just taste really good together. So then it's half an avocado that you put in there. So this is sort of for the healthy fats, and it can help to balance blood sugar. So teenagers actually don't get enough healthy fats within their diet. They did a sort of survey looking at the dietary intakes of teenagers, and it's too high at the moment in added sugars, fruit juices, any sort of free sugars in the terms of like honey syrups, refined sugar. It's too low in fibre and too high in saturated fat. So we've got to think of like easy meals like these to put together. Next thing is half a lime. It just gives it a nice sort of kick.
That's to make it taste like opal fruits or starburst, as they call them nowadays. It does actually. It gives it that kind of flavour, that naughty, but good for you.
And then almond milk. This almond milk is actually fortified with calcium. So it's just showing that alternatives milk can have some calcium in them. And then it's usually around 300 mils. And then we blend it. You can put some ice in to make it cool, or you could just blend it as it is.
Blend away?
Yes.
Okay. Our good friend, the NutriBullet. Okay, let's do this. Sorry for the noise, guys. Are you ready? So what time of day would you suggest to have this?
Any time, I mean, I have it for breakfast or just almost as a snack sometimes as well. It's really good. So if you want it a little bit less thick, you can add more almond milk, but literally you can make it into a smoothie bowl. There's loads on Instagram.
Okay, so you can either have it as a drink or just
as a
have it as
smoothie bowl. Yeah, and if you want it more thicker, you know, less almond milk and it's easier to spoon. But yeah, you just put it in a smoothie bowl. Then you can decorate it with some fruit, sort of like kiwi fruits.
Okay.
Just put the kiwi fruit on. A little bit of coconut, desiccated coconut.
I thought it was cheese.
Oh really? No, it's coconut.
Oh, well, that's quite an interesting thing to put in on a smoothie.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I thought it was parmesan.
A very strange combination. So
well, you know, we have had some strange combinations that have worked really well.
Yes. No, I haven't got cheese. And then the last one, pomegranate seeds. So you can literally just put those on. And they're, you know, very versatile, these smoothie bowls, because you can literally add any fruits that you want. So, yeah.
It looks lovely. Okay, well, I'll try that in a bit. But first of all, Lily, before you go, it looks and it smells amazing. We have a few viewer questions as always. And by the way, everybody, if you have a question that you would like to ask one of our nutritionists, all you need to do is email us on nutrition@chrissybshow.tv. So let's see how many we can get through, Lily. So the first person's asking, I've heard bananas can be unhealthy if you eat them every day. Is this true?
No, not at all. However, I get asked about that all the time, and everyone sort of thinks that bananas are fattening as well. That's, I think, it's a big issue, just because it's a slightly higher sugar fruit. Sort of tropical fruits like mangoes, bananas, pineapples do contain more sugar. However, it's a spectrum. So the riper the banana, obviously the more sugary it will be. The less ripe, the less sugary it is. Bananas come with a whole range of health benefits. They're full of vitamins and minerals, and actually, because of the fibre in the banana, the sugar gets released into the bloodstream more slowly than if you had sort of the same sugar from a chocolate bar or something. So it gives a slow release of sugar. If you're worried about the sugar content, go for a slightly greener banana. And the benefit with a slightly greener banana is they're actually a really good source of prebiotics. And the prebiotics feed our good gut bacteria to make it sort of flourish and grow.
Brilliant. Okay, next question. How much better for you are brown carbs than white carbs?
So brown carbohydrates, another word for them would be sort of whole grains. And basically what that means is the cereal grain has got its fibre has been left intact, so it's outer shell of that cereal grain, and that fibre layer contains all the vitamins and minerals that you need. So it's basically got all the health properties of that sort of cereal grain or carbohydrate. White carbohydrates have that milled off, so it's been taken off. So the difference there is the whole grains, the brown carbohydrates, the sugar from those carbohydrates enter the bloodstream at a slower rate than, say, the white carbohydrates. So it gives you a steadier release of energy, and you're less likely to get that sort of blood sugar slump. However, in the UK, they do fortify all white flour with vitamins and minerals, so they do contain relatively the same amount of vitamins and minerals, but the benefit of the brown carbohydrates is that they've got that fibre in it. Most people don't get enough fibre. We're meant to get 30 grams a day, and people are just not getting that amount. So I personally would opt for the whole grains if you can. White refined carbohydrates would be obviously the second choice.
Okay, brilliant. And one last question for today, Lily. This person says, I'm preparing for a marathon. What would be your top nutrition tips for me?
I think the main thing just to remember is sort of maybe recovery. So most people sort of don't eat properly post-exercise, and it's the most important time to have an important meal, just because, you know, the quicker we recover, the more quickly then we can train again, and that's what it's all about. You're trying to train to become fitter. So post-exercise, we need to make sure that we're getting carbohydrates within our diet. So carbohydrates all break down to sugar, and they replenish our muscle energy stores and our liver stores as well. So our muscle energy stores basically contain sugar, and they provide energy for the next time we run. There's like a half an hour window as to when our bodies can do this optimally. So we are most efficient at replenishing our muscle energy stores within half an hour post-exercise. So if we consume those carbs 30 minutes post-exercise, it will break down into sugar quickly, replenish our muscle energy stores. And then protein is another thing. So we need protein post-exercise to help repair our muscle tissues. And the carbohydrates facilitates the protein, absorption of protein for muscle tissue repair. So they work synergistically. So protein and carbohydrates, so it could be some pasta with a bit of chicken, and you've got both elements there to replenish the energy stores and repair muscle tissue.
Brilliant. Lily, thank you so much.
Great.
We'll see you again very soon. Thank you. All right, guys, so after the break, we'll be hearing from our Good Cause of the Week Share community, and I'll be giving you some top tips from young people to help you get over mental illness. But first, hospital admissions of young people self-harming have increased by how much since 2002? Is it A, 48%, B, 68%, or C, 88%? Tune in after the break to find out. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. Now, before the break, I asked you this question. Hospital admissions of young people self-harming have increased by how much since 2002? Is it A, 48%, B, 68%, or C, 88%? The answer is B, 68% more young people are doing this according to Young Minds annual report. Well, moving on, as you know, we love to feature good causes on the program, and that can be individuals, charities, or organizations doing amazing things for mental health and well-being. And this week, our own producer, Julianne Robertson, chats to the inspiring people of Share community. Let's see how she got on.
Hi guys, Julianne here, and today we're joined by the lovely Sarah Bales.
Thank you.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. And she is, she's going to be telling us today about the great community, Share Community, and all the wonderful things it does. So Sarah, what is Share Community?
So Share Community is a charity that's based in Wandsworth, and it's basically set up to help people with mental, physical and learning disabilities to get qualifications and get back into work.
Oh wow, that's excellent. So exactly what kind of qualifications are you talking about?
So we're actually an accredited centre for City and Guilds, and most of our qualifications are in IT, maths and English, catering, so we have a full catering kitchen.
Oh wow.
We actually have a 2.5 acre garden and do horticultural training.
Yeah.
And the whole process is that people get qualifications, get work experience in real life experiences, and actually get into the world of work afterwards.
Whoa, so what's the most popular thing that you train for?
For me personally, because I'm the training manager of horticulture, I have to say horticulture.
Oh wow, okay.
But I think that probably catering and horticulture are two of our top favourites because it's a physically doing activity, which is a lot better for some people with mental health issues, learning disabilities, things like that, maybe not sitting in a classroom so much.
Yeah, so and you get an array of different types of people.
A massive array of people come through it. Every single person is totally unique when they come in, and we actually tailor programmes to specific people and their own needs, so everybody's different.
That's really, really good. So like, in regards to the people with mental health issues, do you like, is it, so say someone that's struggling personally with depression, they can come in and like train for something that ends up helping their depression whilst effectively educating them at the same time?
Absolutely. So we have a fantastic wellbeing team that actually assesses each person in an individual basis. Do you want to do a whole day? Do you want to do a half day? Do you want to do a couple of tastes a day, see where you fit in? Do you get on with people? Do you hate the people that are in your class? Do you need to change what you're doing? So it really is completely up to that person. Good days, bad days, doesn't matter. It's always at the pace of the own person. So if it takes 2 years, if it takes 6 months, that's fine. It's just as an individual person.
It's completely tailored to the individual. Okay, yeah, that's really great. And in accordance to people with physical disabilities and other like ailments, how do you help them with in regards to that?
So a lot of the time, some people can come in, they may be wheelchair bound, or they may have some physical strength. Quite a lot of the time, people just haven't had a routine in getting up and coming in for a session. You know, that's quite a big deal, getting up on time, having to get to work. We have a lot of transport buddy systems that actually help people get to us. So before people even got through the door, they have to go through a process of ensuring they have got a transport buddy or a taxi taxi or something just to get to us to start with.
Yeah.
And then we slowly build up what they can and can't do. So we have a lot of programs that are actually tailored to fitness and well-being. Go from healthy eating, so we have a smoothie group, they take things from the garden that they grow, judge them all up in really random smoothies. So we're doing wheatgrass at the moment, which is homegrown.
Healthy.
Yeah, really, really nice. Pestos, things like that. It can be jacket potato of the week that they learn at home how to do microwave cooking. One of the aims of the charity in the next few years is actually to have a flat and focus very much on independent living. How people do ironing, how people do the washing up, how can people take care of themselves, whatever their needs are.
You're essentially teaching people how to live for themselves.
Absolutely.
That's an incredible thing. So you mentioned children. So is it anyone from any age range?
So usually we have anybody over the age of 16 come and use our services. We are working with a couple of deaf schools in the local area, but usually it is really over the age of 16 is what we're looking at.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank
It was lovely to talk to you and to share, to hear you share what Share Community is all about. One last thing, where are you based?
So we are based at Clapham Junction, and the garden itself is based in Springfield Hospital near Tooting.
Okay, well, you guys...
Come and see us.
Exactly, see them. They're amazing. They do so many great things for so many great people. And thank you so much for sharing it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much to Julianne and to Share Community. So now these tips that I'm going to share with you are actually from young people themselves, and they were reported in the Huffington Post. So let's go to the first point that's mentioned. Young people say to get a journal. Now this quote is from Megan Lambert, who's 18, and she's an eating disorders campaigner, and she says, get a journal and write down what's on your mind. Even use creative writing to turn it into a story. Once finished, she says, breathe. If you don't have enough energy for a bath, get in the shower and then put on some clean pajamas. You'll be able to breathe better and sleep. So the second thing that young people suggest is to swim more. So this quote is actually from Georgia Fuller. She's 21 and she's a swimming campaigner, and she says, studies have shown the positive effects of swimming on mental and physical health, and I can personally say this is true. After a stressful day, hitting the pool was a complete relief. It was so quiet. I had time to myself where all my concentration was on me and improving my swimming, not on homework or work or life. So it gives you a complete break. And this part's very important. She says, when you're in the pool, you can't check your phone or write essays or argue with anyone, so it's a complete break from everything for a while. So as you heard Audrey earlier, she was talking about the social media and how people can't switch off. Well, obviously, when you're swimming, you can't check your phone. And she also says exercise releases endorphins. This releases some symptoms of depression and gives you a real feel-good factor when you've finished, whilst also getting you fitter and stronger, which is something that we always speak about on this program. Let's see what the third point that young people talk about is, and that's to speak to someone. So Hannah Kara, she's 21 and she's a social anxiety campaigner, and she says speak to someone, whether this is someone you know or through an online anonymous service or organisation. It always helps to get it out rather than bottling it up. I also recommend listening to music, watching a film, going for a walk, getting fresh air and writing. And let's see the next point that young people suggest, which we also love to talk about on this program, which is to open up. Actually, that's why we do this show, is to encourage people to open up. Now, this quote is by Danny Bowman. He's 21 and he's a body dysmorphic disorder campaigner. And he says, open up about your mental health. The sooner you do that, the sooner you'll be on your road to recovery. Very true. Let's go to the next point, which is do grounding techniques. So Megan Chappell, 17, and she's a public transport campaigner, and she says do the grounding techniques which help when you're suffering from anxiety. Think of 5 things you can smell, 4 things you can see, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can taste, and 1 thing you can hear. This helps when things are getting hard, bringing you back to the here and now. And then finally, we have one more point shared by young people, and this is to find a fast-paced sport. And this quote now is from Connor Lunnan, 18, and he's a sports coaching campaigner, and he says, take part in a fast-paced sport. Releasing adrenaline can be the most natural way to open your mind if you're feeling apprehensive about speaking to someone. So those are the points that are shared by young people in particular, and maybe you have your own points. How do you deal with your mental health? How would you advise someone if they're going through something to help them? So you can email us your thoughts on info@chrissybshow.tv. Now, I did do a few of these things. Obviously, when I was going through depression, I was young. It started when I was 16 and went on for 7 years. So I did actually keep a journal for a while, diary. I did do lots of exercise, which helped a bit. It did relieve the symptoms for a while I was actually exercising, and a little time after that. I eventually did speak to someone, so I did go for counselling. I did eventually open up when I went to a charity that actually helped me recover completely from depression and panic attacks and the other things. So all these things did help, but also I would say that try not to only avoid what you're feeling. So don't just do things to kind of take your mind off what you're feeling, you know, the depression, the whatever thoughts you're having. Because at the end of the day, if you're not doing that activity, you will end up going back to how you're feeling. So you actually need a permanent solution as well. So make sure that you do get the right help. You do talk to someone that can actually help you get to the root of your problem so you can deal with everything effectively. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but don't forget, if you have a story that you would like to share, or you would like to give us your comments about a program that you've watched, then do get in touch with us, because we love to hear from our viewers. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about me and how I beat my mental health issues that I had in the past, you can visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Till next time, bye-bye for now.